It's time for Trench Talk, where Joe Rogan meets metal and underground heavy music. I'm your host, Flight of Icarus from MetalTrenches.com. As always, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel, give us a like if you enjoy it, share it with others, and if you continue to come back and enjoy these, please hop over to our Patreon, links down in the description. $1 a month helps me cover the overhead costs of doing this, and it's greatly appreciated. But this week I did a live interview with the trio of Imperial Triumphant. I caught them at the Twilight Bar Café in Portland, Oregon. They were playing with VITRIOL and Behold the Arctopus, and let me just say, incredible show. Everybody just played their asses off. I'm really excited to hear the new album from VITRIOL, and it was cool to see Behold the Arctopus in person with their ridiculous musicianship. But that said, let's jump into the interview, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, cool. So I'm here with Imperial Triumphant, New York, technical, black metal, fucking experimental, whatever the fuck kind of band. You all want to kind of introduce yourselves real quick?
Hi, this is Zachary Ilya Ezrin. I play guitar and vocals.
Kenny Grahowski, and I play drums. Steve Blanco, I play bass, keys, and do some vocals.
All right, cool. So first off, why don't we just start with the graphic novel, because that definitely interests me and was not something I'd even heard about, so I want to get the word out about that.
We, in cooperation with our label Gilead Media, have put out this graphic novel of sorts, a visual compendium, basically 8 chapters, each one based on a song off File Luxury, and it acts as sort of a visual guide to the album, you know, something that you might read while listening to the record. Each artist was hand-selected by the band to visually represent a song that they were assigned. Each style is completely different. It's a real kind of immersive experience that we're extremely proud of. Pre-orders are up now, but I'm assuming it'll be out for sale by the time this airs.
Cool. Anyone else have anything to say on that?
I just want to say that all the artists, as Ilya said, were hand-selected, but their work is amazing. Like, everybody did an amazing job with, you know, each chapter, each song, and each style is so unique. You know, we're very, very happy with the final product.
So who all is on it? Like, I'm interested to hear if you can talk about that at this point. I mean, it's in pre-order, so.
You mean the artists?
Yeah.
One of the highlights would have to be Andrew Tremblay, who did our logo and most of our t-shirt and album artwork. He's almost like a house artist for us now. We have Julie Grahowski, Kenny's very talented wife. We have a handful of other artists we got in contact with from literally all over the world, and kind of everyone from pointillism to, we have Monty Antrim, he's actually not an illustrator, but an architect. And so we're like, yeah, he'll be just fine.
Fuck it, why not?
So yeah, it's a very diverse group that we've curated.
Are any of these people, like, do they have known work in terms of comics prior to this, or is it just other random artwork?
I think maybe later down the line we'll do more of a narrative comic book or graphic novel of sorts, but for now we basically said to each artist, like, here's the song, here's the theme, you know, write whatever you hear or draw whatever you hear, you know? And it was kind of nice to give the artist that creative freedom, and I think we're really proud of all the product.
That's really cool. So is it mostly is it all visual? Is there some writing as well?
So a lot of the artists, you know, took in our lyrics, so they took in cues from our lyrics and brought them to life, or have actual dialogue, but it's all very interpreted, and you know, each song has a different subject, so each chapter is a different story, I guess you can say. It's definitely something that will have a multiple read kind of value to it. You're going to want to go back and look at the detail. It's also quite big. We wanted to make it big so you could really see all the detail.
Like hardcover, whole deal?
Not a hardcover, more of a classic graphic novel, like matte finish paper. Yeah.
Like a trade paperback style, nice paperback style. You know, like Calvin and Hobbes. You know, like.
Fuck yeah, dude. We could just talk about Calvin and Hobbes now, man. That was my childhood right there. But anyways, yeah, I know that's a great example though. So like the really long style one, yeah. You're talking my language now.
Well, just because when you see it, I mean, you know, I'm not kidding about how beautiful everybody's work really is. It's every time we got a piece back from one of the artists, we were just like, this is perfect. This is amazing. Awesome.
So you didn't have to like be like, can you change this? Can you change that?
No. Everyone did. Everyone's piece came to us, and we would look at it and literally just be like, wow, this was knocked out of the park.
And so people can get this on what, like Gilead Media, just like through the website, or?
It's exclusively available on Gilead's website for pre-order now, but maybe by the time this airs, it'll be available. It's limited to only 200 copies. Each copy hand-signed by the band themselves.
Oh, shit.
I mean, this is a first run. I'm assuming it's going to sell out, so we wanted to make the first edition quite special.
That's a really cool idea. How much is it, if you don't mind me asking?
Give me a moment. I think it's...
And is it on the Bandcamp, too, for Gilead Media, or is it just, like, on their website?
I don't think so. I think it's just on Gilead Media right now. It's as a package deal if you want. $30 for just the graphic novel, and then $40 with the CD.
That's a good deal.
It's a great deal.
Fuck yeah.
It's huge. It's quite big. I think it's, if you're interested in art and you're interested in a bit kind of deeper dive into, the themes and the lore and the ideas and concepts that we talk about and sing about and play about, then this is definitely a glimpse into that without, too much reveal.
Awesome. Well, I think this gets into something that I've always found interesting about your band is that, I mean, I've talked to a few bands lately about how just because there's so many bands now, because of things like Bandcamp and everything, it's so much easier to get your music out there. So what's even more important than ever before is, you got to have good music, but you also have to have like a brand. You have to have some sort of, thing that defines you. And some people call it a gimmick, but I think that kind of shrinks that down beyond what it needs to be. So I'm really interested in, like, is that something that is like really consciously on your mind, or is that something that just happens, or?
It's extremely conscious. I think maybe Kenny said it was like everything you're wearing on stage is a stage costume, even if it's just the shitty clothes you wore that day. Like, that's how you're going to present yourself on stage, and that's how people will identify you. And it works if you're Lamb of God and you're kind of like got that blue collar heavy metal aesthetic, which is that's their brand, and that's what works for them. And I think over the years we've been honing this idea and trying to be as unique as possible, because in the world of black metal and extreme music, there is a lot of repeated ideas and a lot of visual aesthetics. So we all, of course, it's a chance to be creative and bring what your ideas, death metal.
Of course, they turn up the music now, so now I'm gonna get a copyright strike on my shit.
It's like I'm getting walked off, speech a little too long.
It was a perfect cue. Wrap it up, buddy. Come on. Art Blakey said they see you before they hear you. Art Blakey said that they see you before they hear you.
That's very true too, and I mean even.
And we fuck with Art Blakey and the Messengers hard.
Jazz Messengers our favorite pastime to listen to? We listen to a lot of jazz messengers on the road.
Night in Tunisia rules.
Oh my God, yeah, man. Night in Tunisia. Boom.
Anything else you're listening to on the road a lot?
Well, tour just started, so nothing yet, but, geez, I think we're touring with Behold the Arctopus, so it's going to be what I can only assume a very eclectic drive.
Yeah, I was interested in that when I saw the lineup because I was like, this is. I mean, it kind of makes sense in a way from like I feel like a musicianship standpoint, but it is still very different. I mean, Behold the Arctopus are definitely not black metal, so it's interesting to see kind of the crossover, and I feel like that's happening more and more, which I'm excited about.
I mean, I think that's kind of a problem with music in general, you know, is that the crossover thing doesn't happen, you know what I mean? And certainly in music there's a lot of cross-pollination. I mean, our music's definitely pulling and drawing from all kinds of places, you know, like whether it's music, cinema, architecture, esoteric insanity, or whatever it might be, you know, global, whatever you want to call it.
Even just like the cityscape of New York. I remember when we did our like email interview, you talked a lot about just like the inspiration of kind of just like that jazz musician playing alone on like a street corner in a spotlight, like you definitely capture that, so it's really cool.
You know what it is like, I read this somewhere, it's a lot of New York, Imperial Triumphant is that feeling of going into the city. You know, and when I say the city, I mean Manhattan. Like driving across the bridge, you feel the energy coming into you as you're entering this beast, and you can feel all the possibility and potential gain or loss. That's the sound that we create.
It's a world of opportunity and the apex of evil all at the same time.
I think you described that very similarly too when you said the message, and I thought that I really liked that too, because I feel like there's a lot of bands out there that they tend to generalize things, and it's like their music's all about like this thing is bad or this thing is good, and it's like the extremes. And that was something besides just how amazing that album is instrumentally. Like I love that concept of like you even said, I think like it's not even about talking about whether it's good or bad. It's just stating what you see, and that you see both of those things, and just kind of putting that out there. And I thought that was interesting.
I mean, that's been the stance on Imperial Triumphant, is like we have no message. We're not preaching anything. This is just the world we live in, and it's just, you know, there's certainly a lot of evil and a lot of decadence, but we're not telling anyone what to do or what to think. This is just our existence.
I mean, you know, civilization is way too complex to sit there and think that any of us, you know, can, you know what's going on, really. You know, I mean, I think it really only makes sense to observe, and then, you know, do the best you can to filter information your way and interpret things your way. So we like to keep our music open in that sense, you know what I mean? So you draw your own conclusion, you know?
And I bring this up probably too much, but it always brings me back to like David Lynch, like shit like that. Like I love that interview with him where they're like talking about the ending of, I think it was Lost Highway, and they're like, could you like extrapolate on that? And he's just like, no.
Exactly. I mean, that's the right answer. And David Lynch is a bad motherfucker, so, you know, I mean,
we're going to get on a tangent about Twin Peaks, but season 3 was incredible.
Twin Peaks is a great example because there is a TV show that, you know, the new one, I'm talking about the, you know, that basically super esoteric, first of all, super open for interpretation, because it's like, yo, you got to figure this shit out, you know what I mean, right? And as a creative work, he kind of kicked everybody's ass, you know what I mean, in a TV show format, so pretty amazing.
What year is this? Fucked if I know. So going back to that,
Jackpots, you know what I mean?
yeah. Dude, I love that guy. That guy's a shining ray of hope in just like mortality, man. Like, I want to live like Mr. Jackpots. So going back to the branding then and kind of the image and all that stuff, how do those themes tie into the specific choices you've made with like the masks and the uniforms and all that?
Well, I mean, the look we have, the Art Deco thing ties into everything, basically, because it's very New York. First of all, Art Deco is super New York.
And art imitates life. And New York is where we live. So of course, our art, visually, musically, it's gonna sound and look like New York City. And you know, when you look up at the skyscrapers and all the sculptures and Midtown and 30 Rockefeller, like that's what they just look like. There's sculptures that look like our masks. It's exactly the same.
And it's, you know, in New York, it's just a continuation of who knows how many thousands of years of, you know, control center. You know what I mean? That's all it is. So, and Art Deco shit is totally Egyptian. You know what I mean, right? So it's all connected. You know.
I hear a lot of people compare the style to the movie Metropolis. Was that intentional too, or was that like a happy accident?
1,000%. No, Metropolis was one of my favorite movies, and you know, the original design of the mask was inspired by that. You know, the Maria robot. You know, that's kind of the original genesis where we were like trying to pull this idea, and it's, you know, I think there's a lot of bands that wear masks, but I think ours are the best.
I would agree with that. I'm not a big fan of the new Slipknot masks, that's for sure. I was shocked by that too when I found out. You know who designed Corey Taylor's new mask? The fucking guy who did like all that. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he did like all the special effects for like all the old like 80s horror movies. He's like a big name guy. He was actually the star of the movie Maniac. He was in some Quentin Tarantino stuff. Why can't I think of his name? Yeah, but he made that mask, and I was just like, how? Like that mask should be better.
Masks?
That just Corey's, I think, is my understanding. And
Oh, he gets special.
Corey gets the special mask.
Harryhausen is making my mask, and you know, Werner Herzog's gonna make my documentary, and
We're trying to get Jean-Paul Gaultier to fucking design our cloaks. I'm dead serious.
although if he got Harryhausen to make his mask, that'd be quite a trick, because he is dead after all. So I would be impressed by that, honestly.
afford it.
Yeah, I'm sensing some animosity here. Not at all.
I really don't know much about the band.
David Lynch is gonna do our next music video, so we're in good hands.
That would be pretty sick. That would be a good fit, honestly. Like,
Be a great fit.
Okay, let's call him.
he's not making movies, so fuck it. Let's make a music video. That's what.
Make whatever the hell he wants, just put our music in it.
Gordon Cole.
Let's give it a try.
You got nothing to lose.
I'm gonna pull some strings, some Hollywood strings, and see what puppets dance.
I did that triple again.
Oh, the commercial, yeah, it's so hilarious.
Because that's what those cats are eating before they do a 720 on a fucking half
all they
pipe.
live on.
They're doing a triple cheese.
Just live on those double cheese bacon burgers, and then they go and kick everybody's ass on the half pipe.
We're watching, what is this, motocross or fucking X Games?
X Games is super nice.
I have no idea. I'm that, how about that local sports team guy?
Bro, we were watching the X Games on the plane here. It is motocross step up, wild. These guys are out of their minds. Loved it. It's cool.
Better than anything else to watch on the TV, you know. You get an actual chance to watch cable TV. I mean, might as well watch people flipping in the air, actually good at something.
Like in JetBlue, like.
What else do you guys do on tour?
Just try to not get fat.
It's not easy.
No, it's important to eat right, try to exercise, because it's so easy to be a disgusting piece of shit.
We really try to keep a military operation in check because that's the only way to get to the moon. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where we're trying to go. So.
Or Mars.
Dude, there's so many fucking bands like at our level or even like lower that every night they're partying like they're fucking rock stars, and it's like, dude, like, what are you doing, man? You just made $50 and you're gonna waste it on like some bullshit. Like, get serious.
Yeah, it's not like you're making like great money, obviously. So that always miffed me too, because I would consider myself a very frugal person. So when I see bands just blowing, like, I'm like, that's your whole night right there.
Well, it's like when you read about these rock star level bands fucking up hotel rooms. Guess what? Their tour can pay that bill. You know, they don't give a fuck, and neither does the hotel.
I mean, it's like those, like, Goodsall would say those stories back in the day where it's like the manager of the hotel was like, no, it's okay. You can throw the mattress out the window because it makes the spot look much fucking cooler than just some hotel with a bunch of old people that are just enjoying their retirement. It's like, no, these fucking rock stars are partying up on the 13th floor. You want to be here. I mean, what's the point of those standard hotels like in downtown LA? The whole thing's basically built to like, hey, come here and fuck. Just come here, get wasted and fuck. Like, that's all it's about. Like, there are some places still that's the vibe. And that's fine if you can afford it.
I like the standard hotel in LA, though.
You can like it.
Just for the experience.
The elevator and his fucking condom dispensers and shit. I mean, come on now.
We will fucking party when we fucking earn it.
And when is that? When do you know you've earned it? I was actually just talking to somebody about this, too. Like, I'm always curious with that concept of people feeling like they deserve shit, and like, when do you earn something truly?
When there's a lot of champagne backstage. That's when we can put our shoes up and relax. Yeah, something.
Sashimi. Definitely some sashimi.
Yeah.
Kaze.
But yeah, I think when I talk to people who have been touring for a long, long time, like I interviewed Sammy from Ensiferum backstage at the Hawthorne, and he went on this whole tangent too about like, dude, I'm fucking old now. Like, I don't have time for that bullshit anymore. Like, he talked about doing like fucking yoga in the morning, and like, he's like, I don't get shit-faced. People come here to see a good show, and that's what I'm going to do. And random aside, too, you reminded me, I was thinking of this when you were talking about, like, the masks and everything. Septic Flesh was playing that stage, too, and they had their uniforms hung up on a little clothesline. And I got a kick out of seeing how small they are when they're not, like, on you because they're all, like, spandex. So these little, like, tiny things that are just hanging off of the wall. And I just thought that was the funniest shit.
I mean, that's very, what he's talking about is very real. You know, like, the music is a gift. Like, if you get to be in a cool band and that you actually like being in the band and you like the people in it and you like the music you make, that's a reward in and of itself. But other people are coming there to get something from that. So you got to at least give them that chunk of time. That's for them. That's not for you. The work part is really the schlepping the shit, putting it in the van, getting it out the van, drive the van,
Sleeping in airports.
sleep at the airport, sleep on the bus. You know, that's the work. And there's a lot more things you could be doing that's way worse to make a buck. So, when you see guys that, like, the fact that you're in an industry where people will willingly give you drugs and booze just because they like you, like, do you really need to do all the booze and drugs that comes your way? No, you don't. It's about discipline. And the road really shows you who's got discipline, who's hungry, and who's just here to fuck around.
That's something I find that I think that you've gotten to the heart of what I really love about talking to bands too, because I like seeing that, and I'm always interested in that idea, because I see a lot of people bitch and complain, just to be frank, like, and just constantly be like, our music is amazing, so we should be huge. We shouldn't have to sleep in the airport. We shouldn't have to fucking sleep in our van. We deserve this thing. And then
you could. It doesn't take much to not have to sleep in those areas, but it's like, if you're going to spend 80% of your guarantee on some cheap-ass beer or some bootleg drugs, then guess what? You're going to keep doing that until you get real. I mean, I forget the Naveen Korpwise, a drummer. I forget his new band that he's in now, but he's like talking about, like, I mean, they're saving money, but they're not buying booze, and he's a big drinker. He doesn't buy booze on the roads. They take the money. They go to a gym. They use the gym facilities to shower and get ready. He does a workout. He has a whole routine, showers again, and then he goes to the gig. And he's just pocketing all this money so that when he comes back at the end of the tour and he's got a few extra thousand that he wouldn't have had if he spent it on crates of beer and whatever the fuck else he does, he wouldn't have that few $1,000s to put towards his next project or his next thing or his bills, like adult shit. He gave himself, I think, he was talking about it on his Instagram, he gave himself like 3 or 4 days of a month-long tour. Those are my drink days. Those are my party days. All these other days, I'm at the gym, working out, sleeping, showering. Like, that's the kind of dedication you kind of need to have because it's a new band. It's not like some established group. It's a new group. So he's got to work it from the bottom, and he's doing the work. And they'll probably be fine. Whereas a lot of other cats, they're going to take that guarantee and put half of it towards the gas and the rest towards a crate of beer to get them to the next gig. That's a mistake.
Warm beer, no less.
No, that's what it's all about. Like, I think a lot of these people just really struggle with maintaining what they have. Like, I always use the metaphor of like a poker game. You get the cards that you get, and then it's your responsibility to play those cards the best that you can.
I was going to say that, like, the thing is, in life, no one owes any of us anything just because we're born, you know what I mean? And yet there's all these musicians that go around. I feel like they think they're owed something because they practice their instrument for 20 years or whatever it is, So it's just a question of, what do you want to do? What do you want to get out of life? How serious are you? Are you into the band you're in? Do you want to see your music go? How far do you want to see it go? Who do you want to reach?
Because guess what? Money's important. Putting it out there right now. Art is expensive, and if you want to keep your band's morale high, which is like number one, guess what? Coming off a month of touring and having some money to pay your rent feels pretty damn good.
Duke Ellington, Beethoven, David Bowie, all these people have patrons. That's right. Shit takes money. This shit takes real money. Duke Ellington didn't get to just tour by train because, being a black guy at that time period was easy. No, the dude had people investing in the shit. He made money moves. He made the shit happen.
Great Duke Ellington record that we really like is called Money Jungle, by the way. We listen to it pretty much every tour.
Yeah, we will definitely subject these guys to Money Jungle.
But are we like at least blocked half the table? Merch, we're dealing with merch.
I can edit this.
It's another challenge.
Yeah, no, but this is the real stuff. Yeah.
Merch is a challenge of tour. I mean,
and people can't see this, but I got a kind of a kick out of it is that they had to set up their merch booths in the literal booths where people normally eat their food. So I made kind of a crack that it's a real merch booth, but it's not that funny right now.
Yeah, right. It is a merch booth, though. You were right.
Well, I'm definitely going to buy some shit for sure. Like, I've been stoked to see what you got.
Merch. We're just waiting on the promoter to deliver it, so it should be here soon. A lot of new styles, and pretty fucking excited.
Oh, yeah. It looks like you got like a little statuette or something up there.
Oh, that's our tour trophy. We have one for every tour, and towards the end of the tour, we sell it to, someone who really wants it. Usually, they're always signed by the band. It's usually some statue of a skyscraper or Empire State Building or New York. It's got to be New York.
We like to bring a piece of home with us wherever we go, so that little tour trophy is it. He's got to go deal with merch. I mean, that's it. That's how it goes. Yeah.
You can't sit around, fuck around.
No, man.
There's money to be made.
Yeah. A band is it's a little family, it's a little business, it's a little team, it's a little machine, and it has to stay alive. One of the hardest things to do in life is keep a band. It's a challenging thing.
I mean, it's like any relationship. Like, I'm married, I've got kids, that's work, too. Like, you gotta, anything... I even have, I just put up, my wife got me one of those boards where you put the little fucking corny letters in it and shit, and you put a phrase on it, and it says something along the lines of, anything worth having takes effort. Like, you earn shit from strife, basically, is the idea.
Totally true, man. I mean, like, Beethoven has this saying, this quote that I really love, and it's, the mark of a truly admirable man, steadfast in the face of adversity. That's what he said.
That's true, man. I feel like a lot of people right now are kind of getting this mentality of like shit should come easy, and like if this is too hard, then I'm just gonna bow out of it because people should make it easier for me. And I'm just like, when I look back at like my life and especially my career, I don't remember like the shit that I did that was like super easy. I remember like the real hard, like taking counseling, like the cases that were really challenging, and the parents like cussed me out and screamed in my face, and I was able to somehow turn that around and get something like going in the right direction again. And it's like, that's life. Like, that's growth right there, is you gotta fucking put some effort into it.
Man, it's all work. I mean, the whole life is an uphill climb, and then you're dead. So like, you got to make the best of that climb, right? What's that Camus thing, the Greek thing, the myth of Sisyphus, right? He's just pushing that boulder up the hill, and then every time he just about to get to the top, the boulder pushes him back down on the bottom, and he's got to push it up again. Like that. That's a big lesson right there, and that's kind of being a band. You know what I mean?
That's great symbolism too, because there's so much research showing that like when people retire, they tend to die. So it's like you kind of need to keep pushing that boulder. That's what keeps you alive. It gives you purpose.
You're dead. Yeah, it's like a shark. Like a shark can only swim forwards, and it has to constantly eat, or else it dies. So it can't go backwards. If it doesn't get fed, it dies. So I mean, I always think that's a great symbol for everything life-related.
Have you been watching Shark Week?
No.
Coincidentally, it is Shark Week.
Shark Week, yeah, dude. I used to be in the Shark Week. No, but I
Shark Week. Is that like every
year?
But it's like the same time.
I think so.
I think so. I don't have cable anymore, so I don't even fucking know. But I used to watch it religiously.
Because that started in the 90s, did it, or 2000s?
I would say 90s. I would say 90s probably, but I don't. Who knows?
We had about 20 years of fucking Shark Week.
I did steal that shark thing though, but I stole it from Woody Allen, so it's a whole different place.
You gotta keep swimming forwards. That's all. All right, so you all wanted to talk about you've got a European tour coming up?
Yes, we do. We have a European tour coming up in November, for the month of November actually, and we're going to be kicking it off at Damnation Fest in Leeds in the UK, which is very cool because it'll be our first time as a band to the UK, and we've had a lot of requests to go to the UK, and it's not easy to get over there, and then we're doing mostly Western Europe, right? Like France, Germany, Spain.
We're trying to get to a few markets that we didn't get to on this April run that we did recently.
So
Poland again, I believe. Going back to Poland again, but we're going to be hitting more cities this time, so that's going to be cool. And we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be very cool. And we're playing another fest, too. What's the other festival we're playing? I can't remember the name of it right now.
Kitty now. And the math teachers.
Are you talking about happy hour? You mean happy hour is pretty much for school teachers. I mean, they're the ones that got to, at least in New York, it's like that.
Well,
if you go to happy hour in a bar, it's all school teachers, getting hammered because they got to be up at 5 in the morning, right?
Yeah, they got to deal with city kids. That's intense.
I mentored for a couple months in a Chicago public school, very briefly. It's rough, man. They didn't even have a science teacher.
Why would they? Why would they?
I have a good friend. He's a music teacher in the system in New York, and he's got a lot of stories.
Oh, I'm sure. It's wild. It's the fucking Wild West in certain areas. It's really sad to see.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy thing, man. But it's the civilization we're in.
And that's what you're capturing in your music. Well, I could go on forever. I usually do up to an hour and a half, but I know you don't have that long. So I'd see you all kind of looking around like you got stuff to do. You need to move along. Yeah, that's true.
I like to check out the bands that we tour with, and especially the locals that roll through, and it's always music. It's about the music in the end, So.
Are you familiar with Vitriol?
Yeah, I actually am familiar with them because I knew that we were playing with them, so I checked them out and very excited to hear them. Yes, very cool, very cool.
Again, I saw the 3 bands on this ticket, and I was like, damn, this is really cool. And actually, I haven't listened to Arctopus in a long time, but I got introduced to them many years ago, and so I was like, whoa, that's a blast from the past right there.
Well, they're a sick band, and Colin is also a good friend of ours, and he recorded and engineered our album Via Luxury. Yeah, so he's a real heavy player in the New York scene, and he's a great guy, and it's just awesome to be on the road with him.
Sick, man.
The more interesting metal bands and metal records that have been made in New York in the last decade or so were either tracked at or mixed at or both at Menegroth Studios. So, he's an important staple to the scene.
Or he played in the band.
Or he's in the band, or it's his band. He's very underspoken about it, but the fact is, he's a very important staple and key figure in the New York metal scene these days, especially as a transplant. He's not a native New Yorker. I don't even think his family. No, his wife's Canadian. His wife used to be in a really sick tech death band called Ekacore. They had a really sick demo that they had released, but it band dispersed. She moved to New York with him and yada yada. But sick band, but he's Philly. He's a Philly guy, and there's a lot of Philly New York talk back. There's a lot of between the Cleric guys, the Piron guys, Crowless guys. Cleric, yeah.
Cleric. Yeah, you know them? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Good friends with them, and I actually. Oh yeah.
Random fucking shit in that band. I love it.
I actually play in another band with the drummer from Cleric, which is cool. And actually, I'll be back out here again in October with that band. It's called Pack. Pretty cool. Check that out too.
Yeah, and I know Crowless too. Those are all fucking great shit, man. That's what I think. Yeah, that's my favorite shit right now. Is crazy, weird, technical, just abrasive shit. I don't know if this is less kind of of the noisy variety, but still very technical. I don't know if y'all have heard the new Warforged album.
It's good.
One of my favorites of the year so far. Really great. And the guy Adrian, who's the vocalist, and he composes a lot of the music. I talked to those guys on the podcast. They're funny, they're personable, and they're just amazing, talented songwriters. They took their time. I think it took them 4 years or something to like put this album together, and it shows. Like, and they made a whole video to go along with it, and it's really great. If I could recommend one thing, it would be that.
That's awesome. Thanks.
Excellent.
So, and I always ask the bands that I talk to, like, who are you recommending right now? Like, who are your favorite, like, kind of more underground bands that you feel like deserve more attention?
Well, I mean, there's so much music, and I have this queue of people are always sending me bands to listen to, you know, and it's like,
Mostly their own, probably.
I mean, a lot of times, but I don't mind. I mean, I love it all. It's like, it's great humans are making music, you know. But I mean, you know, a band. There are certain bands that are just always on my playlist, you know, that I would talk about, like Portal, for example. It's just, I just never get tired of their sound, you know what I mean, their music. It's great stuff, you know. I don't know. There's a lot of bands that I like. I mean,
Portal's sick. The new Abyssal's really good too.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. It's funny enough we mentioned Cleric because Hollenberg, Matt, the guitar player from Cleric, we were working together recently on a couple of different bands. Like one of the Zorn bands was playing recently, and then we're both in a new trio with the guitar player from Orb Weaver, Sally Gates. She's got a new project of stuff that she's been working on, and we just recorded. And Matt had never heard Loincloth. So,
That sounds somewhat familiar.
Confessor, do you remember those guys? Like, kind of like, they're Virginia-based. Pedal Bag. Got it. They're Virginia-based, like Richmond-based. But, you know, coming out of, like Confessor was like kind of, if I don't know, if Merciful Fate was mathy, but the singer was singing a different song. Like, it's really,
It's like almost like polyrhythms, except with the vocalist doing the weird shit.
yeah, like really heavy riffing, like heavy riff stuff, but like really like, you know, King Diamond type vocals, but disjointed. And then Loincloth is,
That sounds interesting. You got me intrigued. You should write fucking press releases for my emails, man. I would definitely listen to that.
I'm sold. So Loincloth is kind of coming out of that, but far more instrumental oriented. There's no singers, just the trio, just the guitar, bass, and drums. But the drum, like Steve Shelton, for a lot of metal drummers, is a super important guy. He's very under the radar, like a lot of folks don't talk about him because he's not a blaster and he doesn't do like the Mike Portnoy fills, and he's nothing flashy about him. But he's one of the most important drummers in the metal scene today, period. By far one of the most orchestrated drummers I've ever heard. Like, he's really, like, not a drummer, he's something else. And the riffs are super dense and heavy, and they're almost knuckle draggy, but they're really...
I love knuckle draggy.
It's like mathy, knuckle draggy, sludgy shit. And Hollenberg was just losing his fucking mind. We're listening to it on the drive back from one of the gigs with Simulacrum. Like, we just dropped off Zorn at his apartment. We're just blasting this shit, driving through downtown Manhattan, listening to this fucking Loincloth shit. And he's like, this is like exactly what I need to listen to right now. It's like I don't even understand, but it's heavy as fuck. And he's just, so already, like, I think that might have a nice little influence on the Cleric stuff, because their stuff can be very lofty and they create these vortexes above what they do, but this could kind of pull them back down to the earth.
They're a great band, Cleric.
I would be so interested to hear Cleric implement that type of heaviness into their sound. That would be a feat to behold for sure.
They can do it. I mean, all those guys can get heavy as fuck when they want to.
They're working on new stuff too, aren't they? I think I saw a post from them.
Yeah, they're working now, demoing ideas. I haven't heard anything yet, but they see, like, at least Matt seems really excited about what's been going on.
I'm pretty sure I've corresponded with at least somebody in Cleric at some point, so send them my way, man. I want to hear more about that. And also, I gotta say, Loincloth is the perfect name for a band that has a knuckle draggy sound. That's perfect.
The name of the record is Iron Balls of Steel. And the album cover, if I remember correctly, is very, like, just kind of stark album cover. Lots of, like, sepia tone gray, dark kind of colors. And it's a minotaur in like a fur loincloth.
Fuck yeah.
I just want to just rattle off a couple other bands. There's so many. It's like no matter what, you always leave out great bands. You know what I mean, but just a couple that are coming to my mind is there's this band from Ireland called Malthusian.
Malthusian's my shit, man.
Dude, they're like fucking like druid, like fucked up, heavy duty Irish fucking chaos. You know what I mean? Super soulful sound. You know?
And quality over quantity, because they've only done like 2 EPs and finally did an album, which was excellent, so good. And the drummer used to be in
Johnny King, the drummer. Yeah.
Was in, what was that other they were kind of like a atmospheric black metal band, but then their last album's like very kind of industrial sounding. It's got like curled over.
What about the homies from April? From the Russia show.
You mean the French dudes?
Yes.
Yes. What's the name of their band?
Oh no, this is the worst time to forget their fucking names, because those guys are fucking savages.
Yeah.
Altar of Plagues. That's the band. Yeah. The drummer, if I'm getting this right, the drummer from Malthusian was in Altar of Plagues, and their final album, I can't recommend enough. I'm not gonna waste time looking that up too, but it's like a black and white cover, like of a chick like curled over, like in like a weird kind of pose, and it's just industrialized, noisy. It's so good. It's very different from their other albums too. So some people were kind of pissed off and were like, "What's this? This doesn't sound good." But me, I was like, "This is their best shit right here."
Right. Well, I mean, Malthusian though is one of my favorites, right now.
Their first demo alone, I was just like,
and live, they're fucking sick. They do, three of them sing at the same time up front. So it's just like barbaric vocals, in your face, insane, great dark music, amazing drums. Everything's just fucking great. And then another band is. Wait, I just had the other band that I wanted to talk about. Oh, the band called Thanafaxath. I don't know if you know Thanafaxath. They're from Toronto. Very, very cool music, and we were actually just talking about them recently. That's why I remember them. But that's another band I think that all three of us also really like the music a lot. So I'm just trying to think of bands that all three of us just kind of unanimously like, oh, band's sick. Like Portal is no way for the three of us to not. We're never in disagreement about Portal. You know what I mean?
Portal's the shit, man. Especially I feel like the last 2 albums.
Dude,
Vexavoid has been my favorite.
Favorite shit. Vexavoid is my favorite shit, man. That is just, I don't know, it's on endless repeat for me. I go to sleep to it, man. I find it very relaxing.
It is. It's this weirdly like kind of droning like, and then I forget which song it is. It's one of my favorites on that album, but it literally sounds like fucking insects swarming around, and I'm just like, the fact that you got that sound out of your guitar is just incredible to me. And then they got fucking like clocks on their heads and shit.
And live, man, we got to see them at Maryland Death Fest a couple years back. It was a while ago now, right? And that set just was perfect. It was like when it was over, I was just like, that was fucking mind-blowing amazingness. So they rule. That was back to Portal for me.
Do you fuck around with Ulcerate at all?
I don't really know Ulcerate, and I should probably be listening to them.
Jamie's an amazing drummer. As the band kind of went on, the music, they lost a lot of key composers in that band, and there was probably the one record that band probably hates the most is one of the ones I like the most, because it sounds like they're trying to figure out where everybody is.
Which one's your favorite?
It's the one with the fireballs.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people really like that album. That's a fan favorite.
Stuff before that, I really, really enjoyed the music, and then kind of after a while, one of the guitar players left, and after that guy left, I don't know why. It just, the music sort of just became this atmosphere around drums, which is fine, because the guy's a complete fucking savage. The guy's an amazing drummer, and he seems like a really cool guy. But it's the music sort of just became about that, to me, as an opinion. Like, as a drummer, it's just, the drums are in the mix, they're right up front, and then there's about 3 notes that are happening at any given moment with a lot of verb, a splash of delay, and you roll off some highs. And that's cool, but it after a while I need some nuance. I need something to change. I need something to go somewhere as a composer, as an arranger, as a producer. The music, like if I was producing that, I'd be like, this has got to go. This is too long. Get rid of this. Add this instrument here. Add this here. Get rid of these things. Change keys here. Please change keys here. You got 7 strings on this fucking thing. Find 2 of them that you like other than the 3 you've been using. You know, like, but that's not my place.
So you heard it here. Kenny fucking hates Ulcerate and they're garbage. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think that's fair. I've heard that feedback from some people too. I personally really love Vermis. That was the album I believe right after the one that you're talking about. And I saw them play live here. I'm actually fucking realizing I'm wearing the shirt right now. I saw them play with Zrine here, and they put on a fantastic show. But I was just curious.
Yeah, live it's a lot more fun to get into. You know, like at home, it's especially if you're listening to things on a really good system. You want to be able to. It's like, all right, well, you spent the time and the money to be in the studio. Let me enter your universe, and it shouldn't just feel like a live gig. And just personally, like a lot of the later stuff felt like really well executed songs, but there's nothing for the ears to get into. There's nothing for the sonic palette for you to live in and let it go to a lot of, because that kind of music, you know, drone music and atmospheric music, when it's done well, it will take you on a journey that you didn't realize you'd gone on, you know.
I'd be interested then for you. There's another band I interviewed called Noctambulous. They're relatively new. They're out of Colorado, and they definitely, a big thing we talked about on their episode was they're definitely influenced by Ulcerate, but I feel like they've taken it in a slightly different direction. So might be interested. Yeah, Noctambulous.
I'll look them out. That sounds cool.
Trying to get those little guys some airtime.
I mean, that's the thing. It's even with all this technology and social media and Bandcamp and the way we now interact with one another in general, there's still going to be people who that modality of being a person is not indicative for that person. I mean, I'm meeting people in their teens and 20s and people older who don't really understand how the internet works still. I'll just meet up with you. Let me just meet up with you. You know, like to hear somebody in 20 say, I don't want to text you, let me just meet you somewhere. You'd think that would not be the case, but for them, you know, however that person was, that's not in them. That's not part of their intuition on how to be a human being, how to interact. They prefer to call you. They prefer maybe to just meet up with you somewhere than...
I mean, that's great because then that gives that if that's true, then that gives you hope for, like, you know, for live music, for example, because, you know, everyone's just sitting at home watching their favorite band on YouTube instead of going out to the shows, right? You know.
I think people are kind of waking up to this screen time zombification that we're all going through. Like,
my age bracket, do nothing but make kids and bad decisions. And going, I don't want to be like these fucking losers. So what's the other way to live?
I'm really interested to see what the next generation is like. I've talked about this with a few people, actually, on a number of different levels, because that's usually what it is they see the generation before them, and it's always a, fuck those guys, like, I don't want to be like that. So given how things are right now, I'm not entirely sure what that next generation is going to look like. It's going to be kind of interesting.
Remember that restaurant?
Neuralink.
Oh, yeah, fucking Elon Musk, man. I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, so...
I watched the press conference. I mean, obviously we don't need to get into it here, but I watched that, and it's just... We'll see. We'll see, man. I want to see the first 100 people.
I live for... You know, I am interested in that because I think just like any technology, like it could be used for great good or great evil, like, or just great like nothing, like just time suck. And I mean, the internet was that way, social media is that way, and I'm interested with the idea of things like that and also virtual reality, because one thing that I've thought about, and I guess some people have talked about this, is like I do a lot of trauma therapy. and that's like my main focus. And a big part of that is helping the person re-experience their trauma in a safe environment so that they can kind of unwire their fear responses. And I'm like, dude, what if they could like upload their traumatic experience into a virtual reality and actually experience it and story it? I'm like, that could be such a powerful thing. But then you'll have these other fuckers who are using it for God knows what.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, it's humanity that is going to be using it, so it's going to go both ways. No matter what happens, there's going to be evil involved, and there's also going to be mistakes and fuck-ups. So I just want to see, like, who the first Neuralink person that freaks out and kills their mom. You know, I want to see when that happens. You know, like, we'll keep observing. You know, robots. It's all about machine learning. Really, that's the whole thing. That's some deep shit, man. You know, it's like.
Well, I think that brings us full circle again to kind of actually the themes of your album again, like all the good, all the bad, all the machine, like it's all that shit. And I really appreciate you all for giving me all this time too. Any closing thoughts or?
I mean, we got a lot of good stuff in the works, so you know, we look forward to presenting our new material and everything else that we got going on, you know, to all the fans.
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked a little bit about the November in Europe, but you know, we're writing new music now. We got a good chunk of material written for the next record, and there's a few performances and things that are in the works that aren't 100% yet, but once those get finalized, you know, like next year's looking good as far as like, you know, touring and opportunities to play, so you know.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good stuff on the horizon, so we're very excited about it. Yeah.
You know.
Thanks, John, for having us.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun. It's always nice to sit down and just like fucking chat about shit. So hopefully this wasn't boring retreading of like the same usual shit, but yeah.
Excelsior.
All right, we can cap it off there because I know you've got shit to say, and I'm sure the band's going to start playing soon. So, cool. All right, thanks, guys. And that'll do it for this episode of Trench Talk. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please do subscribe, like, share, give us a rating, and go over to the Patreon and help us out there. All those links down in the description. Also, links to many of the bands that we discussed, the graphic novel, all that stuff. I'm going to do my best to remember to put all that stuff down in the description as well. But thank you so much. I just appreciate all the support, and thank you so much for listening. I really enjoyed doing this. It's part of the reason why I keep going back, and it's just a good time. But until next time, Flight of Icarus, signing off. I will see you in the trenches.